So be it, Jedi. He's no good to me dead.
You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
You know what's going on?
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Star Wars After Hours. I'm Stefan Splino. Gentlemen, please state your name for the record.
I'm Josh Combs.
Joseph Dotson.
I hope everybody is excited today because we have a very special episode. Our first Star Wars history episode.
Yes.
And we are featuring Darth Plagueis the Wise!
Plagueis.
Now, we've been hyping this one up for a couple of weeks now. We were supposed to start last week, but Mr. Joseph Dotson had some, personal obligations.
Life. I was doing something called life.
He had some life to do.
Had some life things to take care of.
He was lifing that day.
He had some life debts to clear up or something. Anyways, today we get to dive headfirst into Darth Plagueis, and we are all very, very excited to do that. We're going to flesh him out in a way that we don't think he's ever been fleshed out before in a podcast, at least not that we know of.
Not in a long-form podcast.
Not in a long-form podcast. Now, this is going to be a two-parter. It's a huge book. It's like close to 500 pages. We're going to split it in half and break it down. And everything we know about Plagueis comes from this book by James Luceno titled Darth Plagueis. He gets a brief reference in canon in Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. And really, canonically, that's all we know about him is this opera scene.
We technically don't even know what he really looks like.
Yeah, because Disney scrapped the canon, made everything Legends. But for the purpose of this podcast, we are going to tell the story of Darth Plagueis as presented in Legends as canon. We're going to tell it as fact, as this is how it happened. But first, we are going to go to Mr. Joshua Combs for a quick news segment.
Yes. So John Boyega yesterday tweeted out a picture of it's him with his hands on his face, kind of like the Home Alone type thing, and it says Star Wars Bio-Hexacrypt. And he says, a gift from Ryan Johnson expressing my frustration with the most complex Star Wars lingo. You'll find out more later.
Okay.
So, what's a Bio-Hexacrypt?
I don't know. Do you know?
I don't know. What do you think, Joe?
Hexacrypt? Man, I don't even know.
Is there anything?
Hex means 8, right? Or is that
6?
6?
Yeah, like hexagon on 6 sides. Is there anything in the Legends
Hexacrypt.
that has anything hexacrypt or anything? It's a crypt.
Biological.
A
Hexa, 6. Crypt. Things where goblins live.
Maybe that's where
Encryption? Maybe it's like a data?
that's where the other 6 Knights of Ren are.
It's a biological goblin crypt.
Hexacrypt, the Knights of Ren. The 6 Knights Crypt of Ren.
Maybe that's where they're being held. Okay. New segment just turned into a quick theory
It's been
craft.
solved.
Snoke is holding them in suspended animation, waiting for the time when he should let them back out.
So you're saying Snoke is Princess Leia.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
So Snoke is Plagueis?
Those are Luke's children.
Everyone is Luke's children.
I'm his son. He's
Son
my
Luke.
papa. He's my dad.
Luke, son Luke. Yes. Okay, so Hexacrypt.
Yeah.
Thanks, John Boyega. We have no idea what that means.
Yeah, so that's kind of weird. And then also, someone made a modern trailer for Empire Strikes Back, and it's pretty awesome. It was made by a guy named Tom Fisher. I'll link it on the description for the YouTube video. It's pretty awesome. I just wanted to say that really quick. And also, we have the Thrawn book coming out.
Yes.
and that is coming out on April 11th.
Now, if you want to support the podcast, you can order the Thrawn book from our website. We have a portal to Amazon. All you do is go on StarWarsAfterHoursPodcast.com. You scroll to the bottom, you will see a portal to Amazon. You can pre-order or order the book or any other products directly from our website, and we get a percentage of that. It doesn't cost you anything extra, and you support the podcast that way. We get a small cut, a small percentage of that.
Yeah, and also, if you like listening to audiobooks, you can check us out on audibletrial.com/StarWarsAfterHours. You can get a free audiobook, 30-day free trial, and if you cancel, you get to keep that audiobook. So you can make that Thrawn, or you can make that Darth Plagueis, or you can make that Aftermath. There's a lot of good books on there. There's over 176 Star Wars titles alone. There's thousands of others. So audibletrial.com/StarWarsAfterHours.
Yes. So me and Josh were on the Disney Culture Club, Network 1901, with Dale Wentland and Josh Taylor. And
Yeah.
we did a short 20-minute segment.
We kind of just talked about the show. We talked a little bit about us and Star Wars and all of the patents and stuff for Star Wars Land and stuff that we've been looking at. So that's interesting. So check that out on Network 1901.
Yeah, and we had Dale on for episode 3, Discovering Dale Wentland. We're going to have Josh on for episode 8.
Yeah,
I
in
believe.
episode 8, and that's going to be the history of Lucasfilm and Disney. He was actually the first podcast that I had ever done. I went on to Modern Mouse Radio to talk about the plans for Tomorrowland after Star Wars Land is built.
That was with Josh?
That was with Josh Taylor.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so he kind of ignited the Force in me.
He baptized you in the middle of the podcast.
Yeah, he did. So thanks, Josh, if you're listening.
Yeah, super good dudes. High quality podcast. Great guys. Definitely check them out.
So you can find Dale and Josh at network1901.com, as well as on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of those places. Check out our episode on YouTube, Network 1901, and that should be a good one.
So, today, as we've all been looking forward to, Darth Plagueis.
Darth Plagueis the
Darth
Wise.
Plagueis the Wise. And, so, these Star Wars histories, I'm an optimist. I like to believe that we all have good intentions. And in Star Wars and in life, some circumstances come along and make us follow a different path. Now, what makes us follow that different path?
Desires.
Yes.
What
Desires.
you want.
What you want. What can make a person do something evil? And do they even perceive it as evil?
Love. I mean, like, I don't know. We all
Fear.
fall in love.
Fear.
Being scared. Fear.
Being
Fear.
scared.
I mean, even Dale was talking about that, how pretty much every Sith kind of has a different way of how they got into darkness. So, one's like jealousy, the other one would just be anger, and then fear of death. And yeah, there's a lot that goes on there between different Sith.
Right. I think now when you guys talk about it and break it down like that, it really could be easy to fall down the dark path. Those are feelings we have a lot of the time, and I think it's easy to have those feelings.
Yeah, everyone has to deal with that type of stuff.
I could see how certain feelings can lead to the dark side, such as love, fear, hate. What's another one? I feel like there's a fourth one.
There's all kinds of things.
There's a bunch of different things. But these feelings, they're easy for someone to have, and so as a Jedi, it's much more different. It's pretty much the complete opposite of that.
And it's easy for someone to manipulate. It's easy for someone stronger and someone smarter to say, I know that this is what their fear is, this is what's going to turn them to the dark side. I need to magnify that as much as possible to make them my apprentice.
So as people, as finite beings, what is something that we are all afraid of?
Sharks.
I don't think everyone's afraid of sharks.
Spiders.
I was trying to poke you in a certain direction. You weren't going there.
It was
Death.
it's
I'm
death.
afraid of death.
Yeah, death. Okay,
I'm
yeah,
afraid
there
of
we
death.
go. Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at. So, the story of Darth Plagueis is relatable in a way because as physical beings, we are born and soon learn that
Eventually, we're going to die.
eventually there will be an end to us. Now, as many Sith before him, Plagueis, his ultimate goal was to extend his life indefinitely, to conquer and cheat death through the manipulation of midichlorians. And he was nearly successful at it, and we are going to start his story by first talking about his master, Darth Tenebris.
Tenebris.
Yes. So Darth Tenebris, he was a Sith Lord. He was a master of Darth Plagueis. He was a Bith. And if you don't know what a Bith is, it's basically the Cantina band. They're super smart. They have really big brains, so they're really good at a lot of things. But I never really...
Mainly musical inclined.
well, because...
No, not at all.
No,
That's
not
what's
at all.
funny.
That's the funny thing about it, is that a lot of them are like engineers.
Yeah,
and,
they're like brilliant. Like, and the only time we really see him in Star Wars is playing in the freaking Cantina band.
Yeah, and they have gigantic brains. And I
That
was
makes
thinking
sense.
about it, and I was like, I wonder if they were just like kids that their parents was trying to push them so hard that they rebelled, and they're like, "Fuck you, mom and dad! I'm gonna go play music."
Yeah, they're part of that kind. It's part of their childhood.
Yeah, so I mean, he was a Bith. He had a huge
I'm
ass brain.
different.
He was a Bith Sith. I'm a Bith and
Like-
I'm a Sith. Do do do. I'm a Bith and I'm a Sith.
Do you think his lightsaber was a flute? Like, do you think it was an instrument?
A flute saber.
Not only can I wield the saber, I can play a tune.
Now Darth Tenebris, the Bith Sith, was quite a conniving little bastard.
Yeah, and he kind of masqueraded as Rugus Gnome.
He was a starship designer.
Yeah, he was like he designed luxury starships for rich people, for people in high class politics.
Yes.
So he had a lot of weight within different parts of the galaxy.
Man
And
of
at
trades.
the same time, he's also a Sith Lord.
A Sith Lord interior designer for ships.
Interior Bith Sith designer lord.
Yeah, and he was just so...
Sounds like a flamey master.
And so his master, I'm not sure the name, but it was some sort of Twi'lek.
Yeah, it was a Twi'lek.
Some sort of Twi'lek Sith, and we will...
Twi'leks are tentacle heads.
Yeah, I think most people that listen to this know what Twi'leks are.
They're water people. They really are.
You were watered. Anyways, just like most Sith and their apprentices, Darth Tenebris killed his master.
No way.
What a surprise.
What a shocker.
Yeah.
Because Tenebris comes from the Bane line.
Yes.
And the Bane line adheres, although quite loosely, as we will come to find out, to the rule of two.
Yeah.
The rule of two and only two.
It is a little bent in a few situations, but it always kind of goes back to balance. And then when it's out of balance, that's when they make the movies.
Precisely. Now, there is a short story. It's called The Tenebris Way.
So, The Tenebris Way was originally published in Star Wars Insider issue 130. It was written by Matthew Stover and illustrated by Brian Rudd. And it is very interesting because it actually goes into Darth Tenebris's experience into death, and it kind of goes back and forth between the past and the present, because he's kind of through the Force, he's watching basically the life go by. So, I'm going to read this. Dying, Tenebris observed with mild surprise, was turning out to be not only pleasant, but wholly wonderful. Had he ever suspected how much he'd enjoy the process, he wouldn't have wasted all those decades waiting for his foolish apprentice Plagueis to do him in. So even as he lay gasping around the icy barbs that pierced his lung, Tenebris smiled, even with the jerking and convulsing in his body's last reflexive rebellion against the fall of external night. Even as organ systems shut down one by one to maintain the last shreds of light and life within vast intricacies of his brain, massive beyond even those of other myths. A people justly legendary for their intellectual prowess, Tenebris found himself particularly enjoying the incremental disappearance of his own midichlorians.
He finds out a way to put his consciousness into his midichlorians. He sends his midichlorians into Plagueis, and he...
That Palpatine
Plagueis has
is
the
going
ability
to
to
kill...
see in the future?
No,
Well, Plagueis does, yeah.
Plagueis, yeah.
Yeah. But Tenebris has the ability to see into the future, and he foresees, like, Anakin being born, and he wants, basically, Plagueis to, like...
Make
he
sure this
foresees
happens.
he foresees like Plagueis basically creating Anakin, and he sees it as a way for him to get his consciousness into the being that Plagueis creates through his manipulation of the midichlorians. And
and it's called essence transfer.
yeah, it's called essence transfer. But along the way he fucks up because he when he puts his consciousness into the midichlorians, it reduces the ability to like see the future,
Okay.
and his midichlorians go into Plagueis as he dies, and so Plagueis's ability to
see the future is gone.
diminishes, and Plagueis dies before he comes into like close contact with Anakin, so Tenebris like never gets the chance to essence transfer, and so Tenebris's consciousness is in an infinite loop of just like dying over and over again.
Yeah, and according to this, he loves it.
That's cool.
Well, he loves the beginning, and then he's horrified at the end.
Yeah, that's very true. As he keeps on going through it.
It's an infinite loop.
So he also set up the parents of Plagueis and convinced them to let him take them when he was 5 years old to train him because he was strong in the Force.
Yeah, he could tell that... do you want to just read what you're going to read, and then we'll...
Foolish, pathetic Plagueis. Tenebris's moon apprentice would never comprehend his own limitations. These limitations were only peripherally due to the unfortunate tendencies of moons as a species to measure every interaction as a transaction to be manipulated for maximum profit. No, Plagueis' real weakness was fear. Fear so deep and all-pervasive that the fool did not even register it was emotion. Again and again, across the decades of his apprenticeship, Plagueis had insisted that his fear was not fear at all, instead claiming it to be merely rational prudence. But Tenebris knew the truth. He had always known it. Tenebris had chosen his apprentice specifically because of it. Plagueis was afraid to die. Were Tenebris the sort of individual who could experience pity, he supposed he might feel some for his apprentice. Crippled by dread, Plagueis would never know the freedom of an unbounded will that was the true legacy of the Banite Sith. And were Tenebris the sort of individual to be fair-minded about such things, he would have accepted much of the blame for Plagueis' incapacity. As both pity and fairness were entirely alien to this nature, though, Tenebris instead pleasurably recalled the relentless needling of his apprentice across their long, long years together. And this goes on, and I can link to where you guys can read it. It's from Star Wars Insider, issue 130, the Tenebris Way.
So Tenebris knows Plagueis is afraid of death, and over the apprenticeship, he pokes and prods at that fear over and over and over until he knows that at his moment of death, Plagueis will observe his midichlorians. He puts that obsession into Plagueis purposefully, in a way to do a sort of essence transfer.
What do you mean when you say essence transfer?
So, Darth Tenebris found a way to put his consciousness into his midichlorians, but in doing this, he diminished both his ability to see the future through the Force, and
So he lost that ability through doing that.
pretty much, yeah. But his brain was so big that he didn't need the Force to see the future. He could basically calculate the future, and he foresaw the birth of a Force-sensitive being that would bring balance to the Force, basically, which would be Anakin. And he thought, okay, I can achieve eternal life by transferring my consciousness into that being. And he foresaw that Plagueis would be the one that would meddle enough in the Force to bring Anakin to life, basically. And he thought that that was his opportunity to essence transfer, basically, into Anakin. And
So does this at all explain where Anakin could have come from?
well, we're gonna get into that in part 2, but Tenebris foresees Anakin, basically. Yeah, and he is, in his mind, he calculates that Anakin is a result of Darth Plagueis' meddling in the Force. Now, there's 2 options, and they aren't made clear. Anakin could be the result of the Force striking back at Plagueis for his meddling in the dark side, or he could be a result of Plagueis' experimentation in using midichlorians to create life. So he could be, either way, Plagueis is responsible for Anakin's creation.
And like Dale Wentland said, so is Rey.
Yeah.
Therefore, Rey and Darth Vader are brother and sister.
How?
Yeah.
You'll
I
have
don't
to check.
understand.
If
Yeah.
you guys want to hear that, check out his video, and I think we talked about it on the last one. So I'll link all this stuff. But
Yeah, so where were we here? So Tenebris foresees this being created, and he puts his consciousness into his midichlorians, for Plagueis to eventually transfer into Anakin, but he messes up because when he did this, it diminished his ability to see into the future, basically, through the Force. And when his midichlorians go into Plagueis, when Plagueis probes his mind after he kills him, it takes away Plagueis' ability to see the future. Plagueis ends up dying before he can come into contact with Anakin, and so Darth Tenebris' consciousness has nowhere to go. It dies with Plagueis, and it goes in an infinite loop. And the end of the Tenebris way, it ends exactly as it begins. It starts with him describing how peaceful death is, and it ends with him describing how peaceful death is. So he inadvertently put his consciousness into a loop where he just dies over and over.
Physically or mentally?
Mentally.
well, he's already physically dead.
Yeah.
At that point, but mentally through the Force or through midichlorians,
Through transparency of
the
your
transfer
spirit.
through. Yeah, but
Yeah.
He was unable to transfer his essence into a physical being, so therefore his essence, I guess, is
Yeah, his essence is
floating
just
around
floating
in some
around.
like fifth, sixth dimension or
Yeah.
whatever.
Do you think his essence is like a ghost? It could probably take to somebody.
Well, it could be some type of, like in the new Aftermath book, they talk about some shadow coming from the unknown regions, and they might be talking about Snoke, or they might be talking about Plagueis, or some type of thing they're going to be putting in for Plagueis.
It would have to be some kind of you see the Jedi when they pass on, when they die, they die physically, but their spirit, or I know there's another
It's a force
word.
ghost.
Their force
Yeah,
ghost.
but their body goes away.
Their body goes away, but their force ghost reaches out to other people. And do you think Plagueis managed to, Plagueis or his master, Trenibus, were able to take on this feature in a different matter?
He wasn't even a force ghost. He was it's just his consciousness. His consciousness is just a wisp in the void at this point.
Okay, the force.
It's a thought. It's a thought in the force.
And I think he's pretty much stuck in that infinite loop. He's not going to be able to come back.
You think somebody might be able to tap into that by accident? Or
I think
there's
it would
probably
be
his
a way,
essence could,
yeah.
or his conscious within his essence could reach out to somebody specifically?
I would guess that maybe if you had something like his lightsaber or something like that had some type of, he could have transferred. What if he transferred his essence into a lightsaber?
The thing is, though, is he doesn't even
Kind
appear
of like
to.
Rey
Yeah.
when she touched Luke's.
He doesn't appear to know that he's in this loop. The story starts out with him talking about how wonderful death is, and then it ends with him being horrified, like he's in a tomb. He's like, oh my gosh, like, how long have I been here? And then it starts all over again. And he's like, oh, death is great.
So you talk about Plagueis and Trenibus, they're able to somewhat see into the future.
Well, most Jedi and Sith have that type of force ability. That's actually one of the basic force abilities. One of the most basic, I would say, was well, not basic, but having like
Sensing.
premonitions and sensing like that, because like Leia can do that, but she can't do.
I sense a disturbance in the Force.
Yeah,
But
so
you
it's
don't
like
know
little
exactly
things like
what,
that, but they're
you know.
yeah, because there's some of them
Something's
that can
not right.
actually there's some of them that can actually see the future, like Anakin, when he saw the whole situation with Padme dying, and he realized that
Oh yeah.
he was doing that. He didn't know until the end. So they could see into the future, but they couldn't discern exactly what was happening. But Tenebris didn't have to use the Force, and he only really used the Force as a tool. That's like how he discerned the Force.
So we take Rey's vision when she first makes contact with Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber. Maybe that's something to come to be in the future. Maybe we might see those scenes in the next movie.
Like the same.
Last Jedi.
I mean, I could see that the same type of thing. There is objects and planets that are Force imbued, things that emanate the Force, and certain planets emanate light side, certain planets emanate dark side. So I'm guessing that objects can do the same, but I doubt that we'll ever hear of Darth Tenebris.
Yeah, I kind
In
of
the
doubt.
films.
Yeah, I seriously doubt we'll hear of him.
Yeah.
But he ruined everything
Yeah, he did.
by basically making Plagueis weaker. And with that, we are going to... Is everybody excited? I'm very excited.
I'm so excited right now.
It's Plagueis time, baby.
It's Plagueis time.
Did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
No, I thought not. It's not a story the Jedi would tell you. It's a Sith legend.
Darth Plagueis was a dark lord of the Sith, so powerful and so wise, he could use the Force to influence the midi-chlorians to create life. He had such a knowledge of the dark side, he could even keep the ones he cared about from dying.
He could actually save people from death.
The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural.
What happened to him?
He became so powerful. The only thing he was afraid of was losing his power, which eventually, of course, he did. Unfortunately, he taught his apprentice everything he knew. Then his apprentice killed him in his sleep. It's ironic. He could save others from death, but not himself.
Is it possible to learn this power?
Not from a Jedi.
Ooh, I love that. Love it.
Now,
Not from a Jedi.
not from a Jedi. And a Jedi Darth Plagueis is
Not.
not.
Heck no.
Now,
I don't know much about you guys, but I definitely would fall at the dark side.
it's a
He didn't
Very
have a
easily.
choice. He started at 5 years old.
it's a
Yeah.
path many would consider unnatural, but
I've been
The coolest.
battle since I was 5 years old.
it's pretty cool. Now, for the beginning of this story, the story of Darth Plagueis, I'm going to take you all the way back to 67 years before the Battle of Yavin. We're going to start on a luscious planet in the Outer Rim called Baldemic. And we have a corrupt Senate.
What's new?
Yep. A corrupt republic. We have Jedi that are basically slaves to a corrupt Senate. It's the beginning of episode 1, pretty much. Everything we see on Coruscant, it's all corruption. And so we start on Baldemic, all the way in the Outer Rim, where Darth Plagueis and Darth Tenebris are on a mining mission, and they're mining a mineral called cortosis.
What's cortosis?
Sounds like an STD.
It does, but it's not.
Cortosis.
Now, cortosis is it's a very valuable mineral. It's basically resistant to like lightsabers and lasers and things like that. It's just a valuable,
Whoa.
yeah.
Cortosis.
It's just a valuable material.
I want that STD.
I
Yes.
want all of it. Give me it all.
So
I think Boba Fett needs some cortescence.
yeah. So they're mining this, and their mining droid alerts them that there is a pocket of lethane, which is a lethal explosive gas.
Lethane. Lethal.
Lethane.
Lethal methane.
Yeah.
Lethane.
Lethane. So they order the droid to stop mining, and it doesn't stop mining. It keeps going. They try to override it, and they learn that basically it was pre-programmed to override any commands that would tell it to stop. They realize what's going to happen. They start racing away from this cave where they're mining. They make it to the entrance. An explosion happens when the droid hits the pocket of lethane.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Uh-oh is right. The ceiling begins collapsing. Now they have a ship that got them. This is way out in the Outer Rim, so they are nowhere close to anything. And they only have one starship. And Tenebris is focused on keeping the falling rock away from the starship. And while he is doing that, Plagueis uses the Force to rip down the falling rock straight into Tenebris. The ship is ruined. Tenebris is lying on the ground, gurgling. Plagueis comes up to him and Tenebris starts dying. There's a little moment between them. Not a sexual moment.
Sexual moment.
So, Tenebris lies on the ground, his lungs gurgling, grasping for breath, for life. Plagueis walks up to him. He says, "Master, I did all that I could." Tenebris says, "I'm dying." As he begins to transfer the mantle of Sith Master, he begins replaying events in his mind, and he realizes it was Plagueis who brought the rocks crumbling down upon him. He looks at him. He says, "You!" Plagueis says, "Yes, Master, your death comes at my hand."
Yes, me.
Yeah, he says, "Yeah, I did it," basically.
What a badass.
And Tenebris was always underestimating Plagueis. And he says, basically, "I didn't know you had the spine for this." And, well, Plagueis did have the spine for it. And Tenebris then gets very pissed off because he asks what happens to the ship. And this is way in the Outer Rim. Plagueis says, "It's crushed, as are you." Yeah.
Nice.
As are you.
As are you. And Tenebris gets all pissed. He says, "You've risked everything to undo me. You have no way off of this planet." And Plagueis simply says, "I'll find a way off." Snaps his neck. And right at the beginning of the story of Darth Plagueis, we see what he is all about. As he snaps his master's neck, he sits there, he kneels, and observes the midichlorians as they die out in Tenebris. Sits there and watches him.
Just watch him die.
Yeah.
But Tenebris the whole time had been manipulating his fear, Plagueis' fear, and so that makes sense why he thinks that he couldn't have done that. Because the whole time he's been like, "I've been trying to make you spineless throughout your entire life,
Yeah.
and you did this." And so, yeah, I think he was a little caught off guard.
Yeah, and it actually, in the Tenebris way, when Tenebris decreases his ability to see the future through the Force, we kind of get a little bit of that in the beginning when they're running away from the mining disaster. It says that Tenebris takes off at a speed that Plagueis has never seen before. He says that he could feel that Tenebris saw some danger coming. And when the rocks fall, Plagueis says he realized what that danger was. He was foreseeing his own death, but he didn't know it was his own death.
So that's the same thing, like how Anakin saw Padme dying, but he didn't realize that he was the one that was killing her.
He didn't know how.
So he saw the rocks coming down, like, "Oh, I'm gonna die in this situation,"
But he didn't
but he
realize
didn't know that it was Plagueis.
it was Plagueis that was going to cause it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
Very interesting. So Plagueis sits there observing his master die, probing at the Force, watching the midichlorians leave his master. We don't know how long he sits there, but it's a while.
It's a long time.
It's a long time.
What do midichlorians look like?
Little blue orbs of light that float around in your blood cells.
Yeah, I like to picture them as like little blue donuts that just help you.
Yeah, it's just like a bright little light cells. Bright little cells. They're little light, lit up little lights in your body.
Little light cells, little bright light cells.
They move around.
So their blood glows.
Yeah, their blood glows. So
Okay, cool. Plagueis.
after Plagueis observes Tenebris's after Plagueis observes Tenebris's death, he begins basically running from the situation, trying to find a nearby spaceport, which eventually he does find, and he boards a ship called the Wobegon.
Wobegon.
Yeah, the Wobegon. The Wobegon's a cargo ship. He kind of hacks into the database. He finds that it's going near Munilist, which is the planet that all moons are from, where Plagueis is from, basically.
Time to blend in.
Yeah. So he hides upon this ship. The crew takes off from the spaceport. They finally realize he's there. All he wants is a ride back to Munilist. He tries to bargain with the crew. They're not having it. The captain goes into the cargo hold where Plagueis is stored away and says, "Look, we're not taking you back to Munilist." And that was going to be the end of her.
Oh, definitely.
He activates his lightsaber, basically slashes her in half. He walks into the cabin, and this is a cool scene because as you read it, it reminded me a lot of the Darth Vader scene at the end of Rogue One.
Nice.
It's a lot like that. And it's cool because you get to see a couple of Plagueis' force powers. It describes him absorbing blaster bolts, which is pretty cool. That's a rare one.
So not just deflecting them,
Yeah.
he's absorbing them.
Yeah, not just deflecting them. He sticks his hand out and absorbs them. And describes his Sith lightning as being so powerful that it tosses one of the crew members up in the air, up against the cabin of the ship, and they fell down limp, like as if all their bones had turned to dust.
Unlimited power!
Yes. And it's cool because this section, there's a droid on the ship, which is going to become Plagueis' sidekick, called a 114D. And he's a medical droid. We've seen him around in Star Wars before. I think on Hoth there were some medical droids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's one of those. And so 114D is kind of like, it's from, this whole slaughter scene is from the perspective of the droid. And he's watching Plagueis do all this, which is kind of cool. And he watches him kill the whole crew. And then he watches Plagueis go up to all of them and, like, try and bring them back to consciousness. And he succeeds a couple of times.
What?
Yeah. After he kills everybody, he goes up to them and tries to revive them. But eventually they die, and he gets pissed off and moves to the next one. It says he grew frustrated.
So he was just killing people to try to learn that.
They're lab rats.
Yeah, the whole world is his lab at this point. And it's weird, like almost every time he kills somebody, he plays with them like a little science experiment, trying to see if he can revive them or do something, bring them back to consciousness or kill them and bring them back again. It's a trip. He's a freak. Plagueis is a freak. So, we get the ship charted to Munilist. And this is a cool part. We get to a remote island on Munilist called Abora. And deep in the caverns of this volcanic island is Plagueis' lair.
Nice.
Yes.
Lava.
He has a large library, and one of the tomes in that library, little Easter egg, 114D notices it. It's called Dai Bendu.
Yes. And so, in canon, we've seen the Bendu, a large animal that he's like a force creature that sits in between the dark and the light side. He represents the force, and they call him the Bendu. But also this goes back to the kind of the first draft, the Star Wars Adventures of Luke Starkiller.
Nice.
Yeah, so it goes all the way to then where they used to call them the Jedi Bendu. So it wasn't just the Jedi, it was the Jedi Bendu. So it's kind of cool that this pulls from the original like that, and then now that's in Rebels. And so I'm sure that that's going to come back around, the whole Bendu, even just the word.
Yeah, James Luceno definitely did his research with this one. So, we go deeper into the lair of Plagueis. And he has a large collection of creatures from all over the galaxy. Now they're being kept in Bacta tanks, cages, stasis fields, and bioreactors. Many are easily recognizable species, but some are like these weird chimeras, where it looks like they've been stitched together from different animals.
What?
Yeah, like Plagueis is a freak, dude.
He's the mad scientist.
Yeah, he's Dr. Frankenstein.
He's like Tusk.
Yeah. Some were newborns, and some looked like they were being just kept on the edge of death. Like,
that's pretty creepy.
Yeah,
it's
studying
weird.
the midichlorians of these creatures.
Exactly. They're being kept in a perpetual state of like
dying,
almost dying, and then they're just being tortured. Now they're all kind of linked up to these monitoring machines, so we can, monitor their heart rates, see when they're about to die, mess with their midichlorians, bring them back to life, that sort of thing. And he has a whole other section devoted to random body parts, plant and animal fluids, and organs.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a creep, dude. So Plagueis tasks 114D with basically downloading his whole library. And this is a massive library. There's old texts, there's scrolls, there's holocrons, and this is all to there's no way one person can read and memorize all these texts. So he has 114D do it so that whenever he needs just a piece of information,
a reference.
Yeah, a reference, he can say 1140, what do you know about what can you tell me about why Wookiees live so long, or something like that.
Hey, Cliff Notes.
Yeah, basically. And 1140s just says okay, this is gonna take years, but I'll do it. Plagueis says we're in no rush, but start now. And then 114D asks Plagueis what their eventual goal is, to which he replies, "The goal is to extend my life indefinitely, to conquer death."
How funny is it that his one droid happens to be a medic droid?
Yeah. And he just happens to kind of pick him up along the way.
Yeah, that's the droid he gets.
Yeah.
Out of all of them.
Especially because that reflects his fear of being hurt.
Or dying, so he
Yeah.
has a medic droid.
Yes,
What better droid to help you study that?
Exactly. And now we go to a planet called Sojourn. And this is a weird chapter in the book. It almost reminded me of have you guys ever heard of the Bohemian Grove?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, where a bunch of
totally.
where a bunch of world leaders get together and do weird rituals.
I'll link a video on this because people need to see that.
Yeah.
With the giant owl. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
it's almost described as that. It's this festival where they're subtly recreating Sith periods of time of the Sith, and killing animals and eating
weird sacrifices.
Yeah,
and
weird
stuff.
sacrifices and stuff, and hunting. And so on this planet, Darth Plagueis gets back to while this whole festival is going on, he has a little bit of business to attend to, and he has a couple of meetings lined up. He meets with Gardula the Hutt, and this is going to be important later. Right now, it doesn't sound like much, but he meets with Gardula the Hutt, and she wants to start a pod racing unit on Tatooine, the Boonta Eve Classic, which we see in episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
So this does two things. It pisses off the Gran, who hold a pod racing circuit on Malastare, and it pisses off the Black Sun, which is basically like the Star Wars mafia, because they support, dealings on Malastare and Arshada. So he's kind of already going against what Tenebris was kind of doing throughout the galaxy. He's starting to do his own thing now. He's jockeying for a political position his own way. And Plagueis, he's Darth Plagueis, but he's a respected member of the banking clan. His common name is Higo Damask. So he's doing a little business as Higo Damask in this chapter. Nobody knows he's Plagueis.
So that's similar to how Darth Tenebris had his kind of alter ego, and he was the ship engineer.
Yeah, Regis Gnome.
Yeah.
Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah, Emperor
Darth
Palpatine,
Sidious.
Darth Sidious.
Political,
Yeah.
They dug themselves deep within the political aspects of the galaxy.
Yeah, and I don't remember if I mentioned this, but we talked about the mining disaster at the beginning of the book, and it was done like on purpose. Like they knew that there's this pocket of Lethane and that they're going to be Tenebris and Plagueis are going to be mining it, and they programmed the droid to override and keep going and try and make them explode and kill him. Well, Plagueis asked Tenebris on his deathbed who the mining corporation was so he could avenge them. And he tells him subtext mining. So while Plagueis is setting up this meeting, doing all this business, he also calls in Subtext. So Subtext makes it to Sojourn, and basically he tells them he knows what they did, and that he's gonna kill them if they don't give him something. And that is when Subtext squeals about Naboo, and Naboo is rich in plasma. And plasma is it's basically a fuel source in Star Wars.
The Gun, they harvest that, yeah?
Yeah. Naboo is rich in plasma, so they give him that information. And this is how we get set up to go to Naboo. But before we leave Sojourn, Darth Plagueis encounters Darth Venomous. And this just goes to show you how many Sith kind of put aside the rule of two. Because Darth Venomous was another apprentice of Darth Tenebris. And he encounters Plagueis. They have a lightsaber fight. Plagueis, of course, defeats him. It comes out that Venomous has been hunting him for a while, in case there was some type of notification that in case Tenebris died, it would alert Venomous, and Venomous would go hunt Plagueis. So at the end of the fight, Plagueis makes him eat this plant that'll put him in a coma. Yeah. And
nice. That's a great... They would never put that in a Star Wars film.
Yeah. And Venomous knows what it is, and he's like, that's going to put me in a coma. And he says, Plagueis just says, yeah, but I'll make sure you don't die. And he keeps that promise. He sticks him in Bacta tank and experiments on him like he does all his other his
animals, all his fun
all his
pets.
animals, all that stuff. So now we get to Naboo. And Naboo has two colliding like political powers. They have one side that wants to... Naboo's kind of like isolated at this point. They have one side that wants to keep it isolated and like just live within themselves, and they have another side that wants to open the planet to galactic trade, basically become a part of all the trade routes. And Plagueis, finding out about all the plasma, he's gonna want to get in on the trade routes.
Right. So they can, because you have both humans and you have the Gungans.
Yeah.
and they kind of have to cohabitate a little bit. The Gungans stick to the water, and it's that same type of thing. They use that technology as well, but Plagueis really needed to get close to the people who are actually distributing stuff like this.
Yeah.
The plasma.
So now Palpatine comes into the story, and this book is going to make you hate Palpatine even more than you already hate him. He's a bastard. So Plagueis, their group receives transmissions from Naboo, and it's from a son of one of the noble families, House Palpatine. And basically Palpatine sees his father and his clan as stuck in the old ways of Naboo, and he wants to help open up the planet to galactic trade and, you know, move up in the galaxy and do what his father lacks the balls to do, basically. Yeah. So Plagueis finds out that it's Palpatine that's sending these messages. He finds him on Naboo, and they have a talk, and Plagueis notices something strange about him. He tries to probe him with the Force, kind of like he senses something strange about him.
Kind of like Rey and Kylo Ren.
Yeah, and he can't get a good read on him. And he finally does, and he realizes how much potential Palpatine has in the Force. And at this point, he basically takes him on as an apprentice. So, Palpatine's father, Cosina Palpatine, finds out about the relationship between his son and Higo Damask, which is Darth Plagueis. He basically captures Plagueis, takes him away to his lake house, says, listen, you're never going to see Palpatine again. Quit corrupting his mind, and Naboo will never fall to the globalists.
Good one.
Yeah.
Great job.
Naboo will never join the galactic trade route. We're going to stay stuck in our old ways. And after that, Palpatine's father takes him away from Naboo. And this makes Palpatine very upset.
Where was he going to take him?
He just takes him away. He says, you're going to go live with I think it's his aunt and uncle on some distant planet, just so he can't see Plagueis anymore.
He was like the creepy old man.
They luked him.
Yeah, they tried luking him, and
They luked the shit out of him.
Makes Palpatine very upset. And he gets into an argument with his father on the ship as they're heading out of system. They basically... Palpatine's father tells him he's always hated him pretty much. Yeah, it's brutal.
Nice.
And Palpatine, in a furious rage of the dark side of the Force, murders his whole family. He becomes a storm in the dark side. Kills his brother, his sister.
His awakening.
Yeah, his mom and dad. He awakens. And now he's just drifting in space with a ship filled with his dead family members. Yeah. He gets in touch with Plagueis. And Plagueis was kind of pushing for this. He tells Palpatine, you have to free yourself, basically. Open yourself to the Force and do what you will.
So have no judgment whatsoever on your life.
Yeah. And
Let it all out. Do whatever.
So Palpatine kills his whole family. He calls Plagueis. Plagueis goes and picks him up. Gets rid of the remains of the ship. And Plagueis sits him down. Asks what happened. Palpatine says, I was like a storm. And I killed them all.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I wonder how long he thought up that.
Yeah.
What
Plagueis says,
what a bad boy.
Plagueis basically is like, you have a ton of potential. You are now a murderer, but you're cunning, and I want to use you to usher in a new age of the Republic. And Plagueis starts telling him about the Sith. This is when Plagueis is kind of probing him, setting him up to become his apprentice.
So it's like the same thing where Palpatine does the same with Anakin, kind of, I guess, starting at that opera, and then afterward, when he's on Naboo, right?
Yeah.
And he's supposed to watch him, and then he kind of tells him about the dark side of the Force and how it can help him with his problems. So I'm guessing that this is kind of mirrors that, because Palpatine went through it himself, and so he's like, hey, I can do this to Vader. I can do this to make Vader.
Yeah. And now this next part is great because it kind of shows you how Plagueis views himself. And Palpatine says, "Oh, the Sith are evil." Plagueis says, "Evil? What is that? Moments ago, you defined yourself as a storm. You said you were death itself. Are you evil then? Or are you simply stronger and more awake than others? Who gives more shape to sentient history? The good, who adhere to the tried and true? Or those who seek to rouse beings from their stupor and lead them to glory? A storm you are, but a much-needed one, to wash away the old and complacent and prune the galaxy of dead weight."
So he's setting him up. He's setting him up to take out the Jedi.
Yeah, he's like,
from the start.
He says, "We're not evil. We are necessary to return the Force to balance, to purge the galaxy of its corruption."
Do you think he actually believed that, or was he just saying that to kind of entice?
No, I think he means
Palpatine?
it. I think that's his, other than cheating death and ruining the galaxy, I don't think he sees himself as evil.
Because that's the one thing that I always think about with Sith. And because Darth Vader doesn't look at himself as evil.
Yeah.
He looks at himself as he's doing what he has to do. He kind of got into this anger because of what happened in his life.
Right.
And so it's not like Darth Vader himself thought that he was evil. And I don't think Palpatine thought he was evil, but he definitely acknowledged the fact that he was a little, that he was a bad guy. I think Palpatine, more than anyone, became a bad guy.
Yeah.
In his own mind.
Palpatine kind of ended up wanting power for the sake of power.
Yeah, exactly.
But that is the end of part 1 of our history of Darth Plagueis the Wise. At this point, Palpatine pledges himself to the dark side and becomes apprentice to Plagueis. So, we got a little bit of backstory. Our foundation set. Next week is going to be even more exciting. We get to see the return of some old friends. We get to see Master Sifo-Dyas. We get to see Darth Maul.
Yes.
Nice.
Joe's favorite,
My
right?
boy. My man.
We get to see Count Dooku before he was Count Dooku. So what'd you guys think of part 1? What'd you guys think of the build up here that we got?
I never really read the novel, Darth Plagueis, but from what I've heard, he sounds like the mad scientist, as was referred previously, of the dark side. He's the dissector. He's the
Dr. Frankenstein of Star Wars.
He's the doctor. He's the sicko
And
doctor,
he's
freakazoid,
obsessed.
Sith Lord.
He's the obsessed, crazy doctor that Darth Tenebris, through that into him throughout his entire life since he was 5 years old, and so that followed him until his death.
Yeah.
That he was obsessed with this whole bringing back the dead or creating life from nothing.
I mean, you can only imagine some of the other dark backstories to some of these other Sith Lords, but Plagueis by far, I mean, from what I've heard, he's pretty bad. He's definitely a sicko, definitely a Dark Lord.
Yeah, he's like a just a weird like serial killer almost, like saving body parts and bringing people back from the dead.
Yeah,
and
it's crazy. It's
all kinds
creepy.
of creepy experimentation, political manipulation.
He's almost horrific. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I feel like if they did like a full-blown movie on Plagueis, it would be a scary movie.
Yeah, it could be like it could be a horror film, dude. Like,
yeah,
like we thought the end of Rogue One was like horror filmy with Vader. Here we get, him like probing his master as he dies. We get his torture chamber. We get him convincing Palpatine to kill his whole family.
This would be the closest thing to a horror film or some type of thriller if they did make that into something.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of interesting.
I
And
think
then
a Star Wars comedy would be.
we should talk about that because we had the episode of the Star Wars horror film, and then we can go over to Star Wars comedy. I've heard that Han Solo, the Red Cup, is supposed to be closer to a comedy, especially because
he has a lot of humor.
yeah, and it's the directors are the same who did it was Phil Lord and Chris Miller. They did 21 Jump Street and Lego Movie and some cool things like that.
Mm-hmm.
They've done a bunch of stuff, and that's going to be a good one. But yeah, I'm sure that there's so many different genres that we can go through for Star Wars films, and they can pick things from the legends like Darth Plagueis and say, oh, that's a scary one. Let's throw him here and do that. And like, they can do that with so many things. They can reach into the comics now. They can reach into wherever and throw them into whatever genre they want.
So what did you guys think about Palpatine, kind of his fall to the dark side? I mean, we went over it quick because it's a long episode, but...
Well, I think the one thing that I was surprised about was the fact that he killed his whole family without any care.
He hated his family.
He just hated them so much.
So
he just took them out.
Yeah, he thought his dad was like a weakling. He was stuck in the old ways of Naboo, of like not wanting it to advance, and his mom didn't care about her at all, obviously. Yeah,
and that's where we see the difference between Palpatine and Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren had trouble killing his father.
Yeah.
Palpatine killed his whole family when he was younger, and he was... Yeah, because how old was Palpatine around this time?
Ooh.
I mean, he's got to be pretty young.
Between 16 to 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. So, potential training age.
Yes. Yes.
So that'd be interesting to see if Plagueis goes anywhere or if it stays in this book. But how it is now, I enjoyed it.
I'd like to see him pop up in the movies.
At least in an animated series, that'd be sick.
Yeah, anything, some kind of.
Yeah. Like something like an animated series. I thought of this name. Shadows of the Sith.
Shadows of the Sith.
And it would be like, go through like Darth Bane and all that stuff. That would be a sick animated series.
That would be.
Because they can get weird with it.
So next week, we're going to finish off the story of Darth Plagueis. And then we're going to go into our theories on how he could re-enter the universe, which of course we're going to have to talk about Snoke. We're going to talk about why he is Snoke and why he isn't Snoke.
And that's how most people know who Darth Plagueis is now, is going through YouTube and saying his name because, oh, Darth Plagueis is Snoke.
Yeah.
You know, so that's becoming big. And then there's like a meme of it now, just like of that whole thing. It's just so funny because we planned like talking about this a long time ago, and then it just like came up randomly in like, I don't know, like that stupid like the shooting stars videos.
Oh, yeah.
It's like they're so dumb, but I love them so much. The Palpatine one, it's amazing.
Yes. Joseph, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Just just hopefully seeing more of Palpatine, or maybe he'll get brought up, like you said in the cartoon series. He does seem like a very interesting character on the dark side of the Force, and I think it would be a complete waste for them to bring him up in the George Lucas films and not bring him back into these newer films. I think he has a character of a total interesting backstory, huge, very colorful, and I would like to see him. I would like to see more to be talked about him.
Plagueis, right? Not Palpatine.
Plagueis. I want to see Plagueis' laboratory. I want to see this sicko of the Force. Let's shed a little darkness on the dark side of the Force. Make it a little darker.
Manipulator of the Force.
Yeah, I feel like that's what they could do in these newer series, is really, darken it up and lighten it up. Give everybody a true sense of
Darken
what this is
and
about.
lighten.
Consecutively.
Consecutively at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah. And I feel like that's kind of what they are doing in these newer movies, is, when we saw Force Awakens, I'm sure it's been talked about in other episodes, just the color of the light and how they're really trying to make more things symbolic and have more meaning to them, and they could go in a good direction with this.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what happens next.
Yeah,
especially because they have that the Thrawn book coming out, so it's like they're pulling from different Legends series. They're throwing him in the animated series, the Rebels. They're throwing, so you never know what character is going to come back or what place they're going to be put in.
Yeah, I mean, I've yet to see a Chiss race in these movies yet, but hopefully Thrawn will be the first one.
That would be interesting.
Josh, any closing thoughts on part 1 of Darth Plagueis, the wisdom-filled one?
Wisdomator.
Anything you liked, didn't like, didn't know, thought was strange, or have something to comment on?
It's just the whole the one thing that intrigued me the most was actually Darth Tenebris, and how he created that obsession within Plagueis that made him obsessed with creating life and trying to live forever, and how that kind of backfired. That was really interesting, and I'm interested to see where that's going to go in part 2.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to close our first Star Wars history story on Darth Plagueis the Wise. Please stay tuned for part 2. Things are going to get weird. I promise you that.
I'm excited.
Yeah, we're going to see...
I'm so weirdly excited.
Yeah,
I'm weird.
I mean, we set the foundation, and now we're going to walk into the building and Sith lightning everybody, shatter their bones, and leave them shocked with the power of the dark side. I am a massive nerd. This has been episode 6 of Star Wars After Hours. You can find us on YouTube. Please review us on iTunes.
Please.
YouTube,
check it out.
Yeah, YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud. Please support our guys over at Network 1901. We also have a giveaway for a Black Series Princess Leia figure. You can find all the info on that on our Instagram at Star Wars After Hours. All our info, all our plugs, all our social media, StarWarsAfterHours.com. Go there. And with that, we will see you again next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
You know what's going on?